Welcome, everybody, to Let's Play Sega! Yeah, welcome everybody to Let's Play Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the Sega Genesis. Wow, I'm playing a non-Nintendo game for once. So, what got us into this mess, exactly? No particular reason, all things considered. This TV is way too goddamn loud for my liking. Let's fix that. And, yeah, I figured, you know what, I'm kind of feeling it. I want to test out all of this new software I've got, you know, set up on my computer and whatnot, and I want to make sure I get everything up and going, with all of this new tech and experimental shit. So, today, I figured, why not? Let's go with a platformer that everybody likes, and honestly, this was just an excuse for me to play, you know, something that's a bit more short and not something that's entirely, like, Mega Man or Metroid related. I figured I need a bit more diversity on the channel, and since Ernesto is popping in a few obscure goodies here and there, like the Aladdin playthrough he just finished, I figured I'd contribute in some way. So, yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Why didn't we start off with the first game like most other fans do? Well, that's the thing. I don't really consider myself a Sonic fan by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, I'd consider myself more of a casual, like, player as far as Sonic is concerned, if anything. I don't really follow the series all that much outside of Clement J642's playthroughs, and that's about the extent of what I know about the series. I couldn't even really get into the 3D Sonic games, all things considered, which I know is considered blasphemous. I know. I remember I tried the adventure games at some point, and I was like, I really don't like these. I cannot force myself to like these. Like, God, I just cannot bring myself to enjoy these games. But, like, I like the Genesis games. I like CD. I like Mania. And that's really about the extent of it, unfortunately. I did kind of grow up on the series. I had this game called the Sonic and Knuckles, like, PC collection or something for the computer. And I played that a lot as a kid. But, I don't really have some kind of extensive Sonic background like most other people do. I was purely a Nintendo fanboy for most of my time growing up, with the occasional Xbox thrown in there, because I did play a good bit of Halo with my cousin as a kid. Sonic 2 in particular, why I decided to start with this one over the others, however. Well, I don't really plan on making this channel really all too Sonic-centered, all things considered. Like, again, I think I'm probably only going to be really playing the Genesis games, and that's the extent of it, and maybe Mania. But, I mean, I like Sonic 2 a lot. It's kind of like within, like, the realm of guilty pleasures, like, you know, Super Mario Land and Metroid 2, for instance, where, I don't know, there's something about Sonic 2 that always has me coming back every once in a while. I'd say it's probably my favorite of the Genesis games, even though I'd consider Sonic 3 and Knuckles like a technically superior game. I don't know, it's like one of those things I can't really put into words. The game just kind of flows well, and I definitely feel like Sonic 2 is that game that really steered the series in the direction of, you know, embodying that sense of speed, because Sonic 1 was kind of like in that phase where they didn't really know if they wanted to make a speedy platformer or like a maze-like platformer, which is why you had zones like Green Hill and Spring Yard that were a bit more momentum-based, and then you have really whacked-out zones like Labyrinth or Marble Zone not making a whole lot of sense in the context of Sonic level design as far as future entries are concerned. But Sonic 2 kind of finds the sort of right balance with that by embodying the sense of speed. And the throwing in platforming bits here and there to make sure you don't autopilot your whole way through as far as the level design is concerned. And oh man, I can't even picture the Super Nintendo processing something like that. That is for damn sure. Chemical plant zone. What can I really say? This zone is the embodiment of what Sonic 2 stands for, really. It's got all the speed, loop-de-loops, momentums, and turns, all the while keep throwing in a few segments here and there to make sure you're paying attention, like a few droplets of enemies here and there. Some moments to catch your breath. I almost kind of feel like this is what Marble Zone should have been like in the first game. But alas. So you might have noticed that I'm playing through the game as Tails and not Sonic and Tails or Sonic. And that is because I'm not playing this game utilizing the Chaos Emeralds. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I have never once collected all of the Chaos Emeralds in this game. Not even once. I'm the kind of guy who gets a lot of motion sickness from watching, like, static images, like, in constant motion to a degree of, well, I don't really know how to put it into words, but, like, when I play the special stages in Sonic 2, I won't lie, there's something about it that seems to rely a lot less on reaction and more so on photo memorization, and I don't really like that. And if I had to sit there and pay all the attention in the world to try and, you know, perfect that, I wouldn't have a good time, is what I'm trying to say. I just couldn't really find the words on the tip of my tongue. So, yeah. As a result of that, I'm playing through the game as Tails, because I don't really care for the Chaos Emeralds. In fact, I don't even think it really alters the ending all that much, all things considered. And from what I've seen, you know, watching speedrun videos, I've learned that this game wasn't entirely designed around Super Sonic, and Super Sonic has a tendency to get stuck in shit. And, that's not cool. That's not cool at all. So, yeah. Of course, you could also make the argument, well, Ken, just play through the game as Sonic. And today I don't like now. I want to play as Tails. He's cute. He's furry. He's adorable. And I just want to hug him. Okay, I didn't want to make that sound as creepy as it did, but... anyway, yeah, Sonic is my favorite. Not Sonic, but Tails is my favorite Sonic character. Purely because of the fact that he's cute. I would have some kind of super whack in-depth explanation as to why, but I don't know. He's got that bit of social awkwardness slash dorkiness and just lovable, cute, facetious nature that I really like about him. That really embodies the element of an underdog character, I guess. Because I feel like I've been kind of an underdog most of my life. I don't mean to drag down the mood, but yeah. Tails doesn't really have any notable differences as far as I'm concerned outside of a smaller hurt box. He doesn't even have the ability to fly like he does in the later games, so he's basically nothing more than a glorified Sonic clone. 6, 7, 8, 4. Okay. Alright, yes, I got the cheese. Oh my goodness. So, even though I'm not a Sonic fan, I know all about the crazy exploits that are found within this game. I did take the time to at least give this game a practice run or two, but don't expect perfection, because once we get to Metropolis Zone and beyond, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty whatsoever. Alright, Aquatic Ruin Zone, one of the actual few good water levels in the series. In fact, I think that's an understatement. I feel like Sonic, for the most part, has done water levels generally well. At least as far as the Genesis games are concerned. I don't know what the ones in the advanced games and shit are like all things considered. I find that as long as you stay on the upper path, you can avoid most of the water, which is a pretty good way to incentivize, you know, return playthroughs for sure. Because, like, if you know that the top route is the be-all, end-all for a good run, then you can avoid the water altogether and make the trip through, you know, Aquatic Ruin Zone all the faster. But, the zone is definitely not without its flaws. In fact, you know, as I've said before, like, I do technically consider Sonic 2 a superior game on a technical... Well, it's not Sonic 2, but Sonic 3 a more superior game on a technical level. As far as, like, the polish and shit is concerned. While Sonic 2 just kind of has that pick up and play kind of, like, feel that I like in video games, I suppose. But, one thing to note is that since this is just the second game in the series, not counting, you know, the Game Gear spin-offs and shit, even though this game has a better embodiment of speed and all of the momentum, like, based challenges around it are concerned, in contrast to the first game, it's definitely not perfect, by any stretch of the imagination. Am I about to die? Oh god, we are not off on a good start. I was actually trying to slow down. But no, that was my fault. That's not what I was going to bring attention to. A lot of the time, I feel like Sonic 2 has this issue where, I don't think they exactly knew what they were doing as far as paying attention to the enemy placement is concerned. You might have noticed at some point or another, right in front of a point where you're encouraged to spin dash into a loop to get yourself going, they actually stuck an enemy, like, in the background of, like, the element that you're supposed to spin dash through, right? And it's just kind of case in point, basically. And it's not just Aquatic Ruins I find that is guilty of this. There are a lot of zones in the late game that are very, very notorious for this, and it gets really bad once we get to Metropolis Zone, that's for sure. Sonic 2 definitely has not really perfected what I'd consider enemy placement just yet, and I don't know. I don't know if it's supposed to be dickery on the developer's part, or if we're just in a point in gaming history where, like, you know, level design, like, fundamentals haven't been completely mastered yet. I feel like that didn't really start coming around until, like, the Donkey Kong Country games, because goddamn Donkey Kong Country is a game series that was just, in more ways than one, way ahead of its time. I'm doing a lot better here than my practice one, that's for sure. Barring the drowning death I had just kind of put myself through not long ago. But, okay. It's going well so far. That's good. Maybe I don't really do all too great in platformers with a co-commentator, who knows. Yeah, I tried to do a playthrough of this with a friend at some point, but, like, we kind of ran into some problems. Just to put it lightly. Like, it wasn't really what I'd call 100% a pleasant experience, going through the game as comfortably as I should have. But, nevertheless, we are 13 minutes in, and we're already on the 4th zone. This game goes by so much faster than Sonic 1. Jesus Christ. It really tells you just how built around speed this game truly is. So, Casino Night Zone. Casino Night Zone, unlike the previous zones we've been through, especially Aquatic Ruin, where, you know, it had a big focus on, like, trying to stick with whatever path you choose, and, like, the game's level design rewarding you for staying out of the bottom path to have an easier and more comfortable time. Casino Night is a much more momentum-based level, in the sense that you're not going to be running into too many foes or enemies along the way. Instead, you're going to be finding yourself stuck in situations like this, where you have to really make the best use out of your newly acquired Spin Dash, courtesy of Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And, as long as I don't get myself stuck in here for too long, things should be going well. Things should be going things should be going well. I feel like the zone is supposed to be like, I remember reading, you know, in a developer interview about like Sonic 1 and how, you know, a lot of its level design ideas are based around, and how Marble Zone was supposed to be the level where you take a break from all of the speed and all of the crazy nonsense that was the Green Hill Zone, even though I think that's a bit far-fetched considering that was the first zone in the game. But instead, that level ended up being way more sluggish than it had any right to be, and it was a stage that couldn't really find its pace or momentum. This stage feels a lot more at home with being a better breather stage, I feel like, because again, you're not really dealing with a whole lot of foes. Like, as long as you got your momentum, like, fundamentals in place, going through this place can actually be kind of a breeze, and all the while, it doesn't feel boring either. Like, this game really does reward players who know how to take the right paths and make the best use out of, like, utilizing speed and momentum and all of that shit, which is why I like the Sonic games, because, like, I'm not a super big connoisseur of speed running myself, but I like games that definitely give me alternate routes and, you know, give me ways of, like, you know, mastering the level outright in a way where I can go through it faster, or just have a different experience each time. And I think that's one of the main things that, like, a lot of, like, you know, the prior 2D Sonic games, you know, like the Sonic Rush games and shit, you know, failed to do for me, is that, like, and, like, you play Sonic Rush, for example, and it's literally, it just feels like a roller coaster of, like, speed mechanics where you're just kind of speeding through shit, you're going through springs, but, like, there's no sense of momentum built around, like, trying to earn it, or, like, a sense of exploration where the game rewards you for, you know, being clever and taking different paths and being rewarded for it, you know? Like, you don't really get that feeling from, like, you know, most of the modern Sonic games, and I guess that's kind of why I never really got into them, because it felt more like me going into autopilot, and I'm sorry, but a boring game to me is way more offensive than, like, an extremely difficult, unbalanced game, basically. Which is why I like games like Mega Man X6 for some reason. Never mind that, but, making some damn good progress, that's for sure. I think the goal should be here at the bottom, I believe? Yeah, it's funny, like, despite how maze-like a level can be, like this and, the 6th zone, I forget what it's called, they do a pretty good job in conveying where you need to go without necessarily looking like a left-to-right level, you know? Like, it always seems like, you know, despite how big and complicated it may look, like, the level feels structured in a way where it feels like, yeah, if I go this way, it totally makes sense. This is where I need to go. I don't know if that makes any sense or not, but, like, that's something I really like, you know, about, like, Sonic 2 and Sonic 3, is that, like, it does a good job staying, you know, relatively, like, grounded without being too misguided, I suppose. I love how I've been getting a lot of rings, but, like, not much in the way of lives. Oh god. Ow. I'm probably gonna end up losing all of those rings. Come on, Eggman. This boss can be a little bit annoying if you don't know how to find that perfect rhythm, I find. Ow. kind of ended up getting stuck between those flippers for a second. No, invincibility frames, why? I keep thinking it's gonna end, like, eventually, but then I have to remember and think to myself, no, Ken. It's an 8-hit boss, not 6, not 3, not 4. Get it right! Oh my gosh! Can you believe it? We're already almost halfway through the game. Let's go. Anywho, I think that's gonna be it for this part in the Let's Play. I don't expect this to be too long at all, so I'll see you guys in part 2.